What is going on, everybody? It is the the craziest time of football, and it's May because every week is the craziest time of football. We hit the draft, we got Ball Mania starting, and I have to start this episode with an apology to Ben Gretch.
Why is that?
Well, I feel as though after I had Corain on the show a couple of months ago or a month ago or something, I've hopped in and watched a couple of the ship chasing drafts. And since he drafted with me, he wants to draft running backs all the time now. And I feel like I might have clockwork oranged him that draft, and now he's broken. And I apologize. I'm very sorry about it.
That's yeah, that's pretty funny. I hadn't noticed that, but I mean, I remember the one right after he came on with you. We drafted a bunch of running backs, and that was pretty funny for sure.
Yeah, I think he was trying to get Zeke in the fifth after you guys had already drafted like 5 running backs.
That's
It was bananas. Anyways, we were just talking before the show started about how crazy this offseason's been, how nuts the draft schedule was. What are your biggest takeaways from the offseason? It could be draft, it could be some of the free agency stuff. What really stood out to you besides everything?
Yeah, I mean, well, it would be everything. It would be that this is going to be one of the most unique football seasons we've ever had for fantasy football, for drafting, because we have so many I mean, every year we understand that there's a lot of turnover. There's a lot of chaos. That's sort of the driving force behind a lot of the content that I do, that we have to understand strategies that can be resilient and potentially even improve amid, the chaos of an NFL season. But this off season was so chaotic that it's already, I mean, it is incredibly difficult to piece together what a lot of these offenses will look like. There's almost no team that's been untouched by this offseason. And so it's going to be a really fun one. A lot of the stuff from past years, for instance, like wide receivers not performing as well when they change teams, right? That's been a very popular bit of analysis that's been done and shown, and a lot of discussion around that, the reasons why. That's going to be super, super relevant this year. Obviously, we have not only a ton of high-profile receivers changing teams, we have several good quarterbacks changing teams, the Russell Wilsons and those things. And if you buy into, the idea that the wide receivers changing teams sort of performing worse has anything to do with quarterback play, then obviously quarterbacks changing teams can influence it on the other end as well. So
right.
You have think about all the teams that have had some type of massive shift in terms of their, key wide receiver position or quarterback position. Just thinking about the quarterbacks that are going to be thrown to the receivers, that's going to be new on a lot of offenses. And
even the ones that you just didn't like, just this, I was startled by some of the trades. No one thought that Tyreek was getting traded. There was not even a rumbling about it. AJ Brown, we knew he was contract related stuff. I just think there was a paradigm shift and the way that teams are going to approach the wide receiver position. And it's going to be like they approach the quarterback position, where they're looking at, do we want to invest short-term cheap money and draft these guys for 4 or 5 years, get them under contract, or are we going to unload the clip on paying these guys? And it felt like they really started to get into that quarterback stratosphere for me. And it's is this what these teams are going to be looking at going forward? Are they going to be comfortable walking away from guys, even though they're still technically in their prime? AJ Brown is definitely in his prime. Tyreek Hill might be towards the tail end of it, but he's still in his prime. And so the way teams are going to approach that position specifically going forward is it's going to be tougher to evaluate, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. Yeah, Devontae Adams still in his prime, but he's one that, when you were saying with Tyreek more towards the tail end, I mean, he's one that for me is when you're talking about the team decisions, he's the most glaring one that, I mean, I think he's going to be good with the Raiders, but you have a situation where obviously him and Rodgers have had sort of a preternatural connection for a lot of years, and a lot of the stuff that they do is pre-snap,
right.
signs or just mental glances, right? And they know what they're on the same page. And obviously he played with Derek Carr in college, but there's basically nobody better than Rodgers at understanding situations and understanding all of that stuff. He's obviously always been so great at getting teams to jump off sides and understanding, hey, we need to snap the ball, we get a free play here, and how valuable that can be. He's understood a lot of different things in the actual how to make the game of football, how to break the game of football, how to optimize it for success. I think he's done a lot of things really intelligently over the years, and a lot of what he and Adams do in the red zone, the back shoulder stuff, a lot of the quick hits is all related to that. And then Adams gets traded now. I still think, like I said, very, very talented player, but you're talking about him being later in his 20s. Raiders gave up a lot to get him and then signed him to a huge contract. It's going to be tough in a couple of years to see how the Raiders are going to feel good about that. Because I don't think the production can be at the same level, just almost as a default because of how much of it was based on this connection with Rodgers. So
well, you're asking for someone that's been the number one guy essentially for the past however many years. You're paying him as the number one guy going to a new situation with a quarterback that I don't even dislike Derek Carr, but I mean, it's not even comparable really between the two. And it's just I get your point. But the other problem is that division they're in, it's just an arms race. So it was either, are they going to sit out and just not play football for 3 years, or were they going to make moves?
And once you hire McDaniels, it's funny how the offseason goes, because they hire McDaniels and then the Russell Wilson trade happens. And you're like, oh, well, now we're the worst team in the division right now. And so I think there's if I'm McDaniels, I'm man, I wish I would have backed out of another head coaching job, because at that point, after the Russell Wilson trade, I mean, now that you have Adams, the Adams, it is an arms race, but the Adams trade isn't going to help them win that arms race. I don't think. They're still going to fall behind. And so you have, a tough outlook for the next couple of years. Their best course of action was probably to just start building for 2 to 3 years down the road. But
but how do you sell a head coach on that?
How do you do that when you've already hired a new head coach and brought him in under a different, idea? So that's going to be, it's going to be interesting for Raiders fans.
Yeah, and I just think it's made just in terms of best ball, since that's what we focus on here, it's just made this offseason and watching these drafts just bananas, because we started drafting, essentially in January, which is stupid, but it's what we did. And we were drafting teams in January, and just the shakeout between that. I mean, usually after the draft, we see this massive shakeout, but it's every week there was a massive shakeup. It's Tyreek gets traded. What do you do with Tyreek now? People are still drafting him 9th. Is it still the right spot for him to go? I don't know yet. I mean, I'm still trying to figure it out with Waddle. They got Tua at quarterback. I think he's the same thing for me. He can't produce at the level that he produced at in Kansas City, in Miami. I just can't see it happening.
I'm right there with you. I do not like him in the first round.
Yeah, and he's still going in the first round most of the time. These drafts have been a little weird the last 2 days. I got Christian McCaffrey 7th yesterday once. I saw somebody take Cooper Kupp 5th. So people are letting weird shit happen, honestly, in these drafts, which I'm sure we're going to see in about 5 minutes. I just want to talk about the draft real quick, because I'm sure you're not sick of talking about the NFL draft yet. Was there any team that you just thought elevated its stock a ton with a pick or two, just purely for fantasy football?
No.
Clearly not the two teams we root for.
What's that? Yeah, no.
The Seahawks and Patriots had to have had the worst 2 drafts I've ever seen in my life.
Those weren't I mean, no. Seattle definitely needed to take a shot on a QB. They did all right with the tackles, and some of almost every other pick they took other than Kenneth Walker was a premium position. So they're taking some swings at some spots that, I mean, if you're in a 2-3 year rebuild, is smart. If they hit on some of those guys, you got them on cheap contracts. But the Kenneth Walker pick and not taking a QB is just the headline. And so, they had a pretty horrible draft in that regard.
We're not even going to talk about what the Patriots did, because I still don't understand it. And that's someone that goes into the Patriots drafts knowing that they're going to screw it up. And they just managed to one-up themselves every year with it.
Yeah. When you were asking that question, who elevated themselves, I mean, I think the Jets obviously come to mind because their skill position group is now really impressive. They add Breece Hall to Michael Carter. They add Garrett Wilson to Elijah Moore and Corey Davis. They even get a pretty good tight end in Jeremy Ruckert, and they brought in CJ Uzama and Tyler Conklin. So they're going to have bodies at tight end, able bodies at tight end at least, and Ruckert could be pretty decent, I think. And so you have this weaponry now. Like that's the way the modern NFL is going, is this understanding of depth at the skill positions. We got to have spread offenses. We need to be able to be 4 deep at receiver. And we need to understand that like guys can get hurt and stuff. So we still need to be 4 deep. We need to have depth. We need to have a lot of options. The Jets are a team that's building that type of skill group. It's just a question of, can Zach Wilson play up to that level? And I kind of think not. So
do you think that they think he can though? Like my question with them is, and I'm not a Baker Mayfield fan, but like the dude's going to go for nothing. And if they're going to just pull the cord on Zach Wilson, is that like a surprise team that could just go after Baker and they just rosin him and just like, move on?
I don't think they're in a position this offseason to make, none of us believed in Zach Wilson, but the Jets did. They took him 102, right? And so nobody really thought he was the second overall pick worthy, but the Jets were clear early on. They were going to take him 102. They're not the people in that building that believed that then don't have a change of opinion a year later. So I don't think that's where Baker winds up. But if he has another really tough year, it wouldn't be that surprising to see them bring in a 2023 rookie quarterback if they're picking high again. That's sort of where I'm at with it, is like if it's clear after next year that Zach Wilson probably isn't it and they have all this young talent at the skill positions, a 2023 quarterback could maybe make this a really interesting offense.
Yeah, it's just a weird spot to be in when you load up all this talent around the guy, and if like he fails, you're going to go to another rookie and hope that he hits, and then your team's just in shambles. Like it's just, I love it because it's the Jets, but just objectively looking, it's just one of those shitty spots. For me, the team that kind of like I'm still trying to figure out if I like what they did or not is the Falcons. I mean, they had to do something, and they definitely did something. I just don't know if I buy into any of it is the problem with them. So I'm still the wheels are spinning in my head. Like, do I want to draft Falcons this year? Do I not want to draft Falcons this year? And I'm leaning towards not drafting them, but I could be swayed like on that. So
I think they're interesting. I mean, I think it's a good spot for London. Tyler Algier was a good, I believe, day 3 pick, right? And late running back, if you're going to get one that he has some potential to eat up carries at least for them and be better than Mike Davis was last year, is the way that I would put it. Desmond Ridder, I like. I think I'm buying a lot of the reports when I hear from basically anyone who watches him on film that he's got high IQ, he processes well, he understands how to, read defenses pre-snap, all of these things that are going to translate to the NFL. There's questions about his accuracy, but and that's a real issue. Like that's the most important trait in my mind in terms of transitioning from college football to pro football at the quarterback position is accuracy. But there's some mixed reviews on that. I haven't watched a ton of tape on him. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, it seems like one of those things that could be overcome, basically, with enough talent around you, and you have Pitts and you have London. But I mean, Mariota's probably going to start, and then we'll sort of see. But I thought Mariota was a smart addition too, a good bet to make. Familiarity with Arthur Smith. They were both in Tennessee together, so.
Well, moving on from Matt Ryan was good. Just in general,
yeah, they got to do something different.
They had to do something there. So, like, I think bringing in anybody made sense because when you bring in Mariota, if you move on from him in a year, nobody's going to care, right? Like, it's the perfect. It's all upside. And if the rookie hits, the rookie hits. The last 2 things I want to hit on, then we'll jump into a draft real quick. Is speaking of the rookie quarterbacks, we were like crazy about rookie quarterbacks last year. There was 5 of them. Like, well, I guess 4 that we were drafting. But 5 that we thought were going to be good in the NFL. And the ones that we were drafting just did not hit. And Has that made you gun shy? I know this class is a lot lower in our heads than that class was, but does that make you any more gun shy on these rookie quarterbacks this year and drafting them on best ball or any other team other than Dynasty?
Not really, no. And actually, leading into the draft, I was arguing that was a pretty big inefficiency because the fantasy community was sort of overreacting to 2021. But I thought the QBs would go higher than they did. I think everyone did. Now that they, only Pickett lands in the first round, none in the second round, 3 of them in the third, you wind up with Sam Howell all the way back in the 5th. There's some intriguing profiles there and actually some really interesting landing spots. Corral to Carolina, Howell to Washington, Ritter to Atlanta. None of those guys are really clearly blocked. The veterans ahead of them are all kind of like, we don't think these guys are necessarily that good types. Obviously, Wentz, Darnold, Mariota. There's definitely room for those guys to start this year, and those teams aren't going to be good. And if I was running those teams, I'd want to know what I have in those, even though I only took them in the 3rd round and the 5th round and everything. I'd still want to know what I have in them this year. I'd want to play them as soon as my season's done. And frankly, maybe by week 1, if they're good enough in camp. Like, I don't see there's in my, like, Washington thinks Carson Wentz is worth trading 2 third-round picks for. I don't think Carson Wentz is worth starting week 1. I would want to see what Sam Howell has in week 1. But
it was, so I think it also shows like the gap between us and NFL front offices still, where we're like, they need to be drafting these quarterbacks higher. They need to be doing this. And then we watch them just fall and fall and fall. And then they make trades like the Carson Wentz trade. And we're all in our minds going, what the hell is happening? And it just shows that, like,
I did see a really interesting chart, and I don't know who it was from, so apologies on that. But it said that basically every year that there was historic draft capital used on quarterback, the next year there was very low capital. And that followed again where 2021 was one of, when you add up sort of like the pick values of where the quarterbacks went, it was one of the highest of all times in terms of the amount of capital the entire league spent on quarterback. And then 2022 ended up being one of the lowest. And that apparently back to like the 70s, almost every time, there's like 4 other times that there was as much capital spent as 2021. The next year it fell way off. It was like way below average. I mean, there's fewer teams then, I guess, that don't have a young quarterback. We've had an influx of a lot of young quarterback talent. Maybe some of these teams felt like they could wait because the 2022 class wasn't looked at very positively, and they were sort of playing chicken with each other because it didn't seem like there was a lot of teams that actually were interested in drafting a quarterback, right? And so, the teams that they still all landed in the spots that we kind of expected them to land, right? With Carolina and Atlanta and Washington, we kind of expected would be teams that might take a shot on a quarterback. Pittsburgh obviously goes in round 1 and does it. Tennessee was a surprise with Malik Willis, but maybe there's something to that 2021 on the NFL level, actually. And frankly, the last few years, there's a lot of young quarterback talent in the league. Maybe there's something to that leading to the 2022 class being, collectively falling more than we expected them to. But I don't know. I guess I don't really know how to play it yet. I haven't really thought through, but I think it's tough to probably want to take these guys with late capital in the real life draft in best ball leagues, but they got upside. I mean, the Ritters and the Howells and the Corrals, they all have mobility. They all have a spot where they could start. There's an argument to get different and take some of those guys late in best ball drafts.
Yeah, and I don't think they're going to – I know they're not going to creep up the way that some of the guys creeped up last year. Like, you're not going to be doing the Justin Fields, Trey Lance. They were getting up to silly, like 7th, 8th round, I think, towards the end last year. None of these guys are going to do that. I can't imagine Pickett's going to probably be the highest one at some point, and even if he's announced a starter, he's not going to go above the 12th round. I
will say with those other guys, I don't think I want to be taking him now. I think that's one where we'd want to wait because in a tournament like, Best Ball Mania 3, where there's going to be teams drafted in August, they're going to have more information on whether those guys have a shot to start. We're going to hear stuff by August if they're actually competing to start. And they're not going to climb, like you said. So, it might just be a wasted pick for us now, and we're not going to get a ton of pick value relative to where you might be able to take those guys in August. You can hammer them after you hear that they're actually in the starting competition. But actually, as we talk through this, it's making me think that I want to get 2 good quarterbacks basically, because there's a lot of teams that are unsettled. I don't want to be taking Wentz or Darnold or Mariota either.
Well, that's been I've already noticed that's the big problem this year in Best Ball Mania. That's different than last year. Is you can get. I know we were talking about it in like super flex drafts where you can just be like, blocked out a quarterback early, and not as early as the super flex, but in Best Ball Mania, if you don't have 1 or 2 quarterbacks by round 8 right now, you're kind of bodied out of them. And then you're starting to hit that Kirk Cousins tier. And I found that pretty interesting where like last year you were getting Stafford, Brady, some other guys in like Hurts 10th to 12th round, 10th round mostly, but you could push it or push your second guy to the 10th round. And at the moment, you cannot do that, like in general. So quarterback's been real interesting. Quarterbacks have been interesting. Some of the dead zone running backs have been interesting.
Yep.
And we'll talk through it as we do it. I'm actually going to hop in now. So while I'm hopping in this, just remember to like and subscribe to Spike Week. And also make sure you take a look and check out Ship Chasing, which I know everyone's a big fan of. And I listen to the Stealing Bananas podcast whenever I can too on my commute to work. So check that out. And all your written work is really good as well. So check out Ben Gretch wherever you can. He just gives you some really good insight on everything. So look at that. We are already full. How are we looking? Can you see the screen?
Not really, actually, no.
Okay. All right.
I know the names well enough that I can kind of see them, but you might want to zoom in a bit.
Yeah.
What pick are we?
We are the 12th pick, of course, because everybody hates us. So yeah, we're the 12th. Oh my God, I've had to zoom in on the screen in a long time. Give me 1 second to remember how to do it because I am an old.
Control and scroll on PC for me.
Yes.
The other team that I really like from the draft, just sort of how they left the draft, was the Bills. The Bills are another team like the Jets that have, and you're a Patriots fan, so you probably don't love this, but they just have so much weaponry at all the skill positions now. Like the O.J. Howard add to Dawson Knox, low-key thing. Okay, now you have 2 good tight ends. Then they go and they get James Cook, right? And so now they have an additional running back. They added Jameson Crowder. Who did they get at receiver in day 3? He's got a good profile, but I can't remember exactly which one it was.
Yes, I remember them drafting them. Look, we got
it's a small school dude, Khalil Shakir, and so you have a lot of depth at receiver now too. I mean, they still have they brought back Isaiah McKenzie, and even though they lost Emmanuel Sanders and Cole Beasley, they're like 5, 6, 7 deep in terms of interesting profiles at receiver. They're a team that, like, I think has been smartly building out a lot of depth at the skill spots.
Yeah, I don't think that the Sanders and Beasley losses are going to hurt them too much. Beasley maybe more than exactly. It's probably going to help them. Beasley might hurt in terms of like comfort level for Josh Allen if we want to get hand in the dirt, because that's just like his little reliable slot guy that will do like a 5-yard out and he's just where he needs to be. But I think that they have plenty of guys on the team between McKenzie and Dawson Knox and just everybody to replace them. They should be more than fine with that. So we're going to be coming up on our pick now.
You realize we're going 0 RB, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not going to make you do anything weird during a Best Ball Mania. Now, if you want to come back on the show in a month or two and the puppy's out and we want to do some weird drafts and have some fun, we can do that. But nothing weird during Best Ball Mania is kind of.
There's not a running back that goes in this range that I'm aware of that I'd want to take unless Javonte's still going this high. So for me, it would be pretty clearly 2.
Yeah, Javonte, we're obviously not going to get him coming around, but he has slipped some.
But I don't think you want to pay this price for him. I think at this turn, it makes a lot of sense to be hitting 2 non-running backs.
Yeah, so it's obviously Diggs for one of them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's where we're going there.
No-brainer for me, and I think Kelsey's a no-brainer too. Like, I would love to start Kelsey.
You want to go Diggs, Kelsey? I'm fine with doing that because I don't have any Kelsey yet.
Where were you thinking? I don't mind going somewhere else.
Well, that's where I was gonna bring up. It's like I don't really love Debo. I don't love Tyreek in this spot.
Right.
Where are we on CeeDee Lamb at this point? And
I like him, but I don't think you need to take him here.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Kelsey's it's a pretty big structural advantage in a 0 RB build, especially to get an elite tight end. And then without Tyreek Hill, there's a lot of other good pass catchers in that offense now. I mean, getting Sky Moore was big for the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs did well. It's another team that did well. Juju, Sky, a lot of depth there. They brought in MVS. They have Mecole Hardman.
Mm-hmm.
Brought in UDFA Justin Ross, who I really like. But Travis Kelce's, I mean, I know he's on the wrong side of 30, and eventually he's going to have a cliff here, but he's going to get absolutely peppered.
I'm fine with it. My only pushback on it would be I've seen Kittle going in the 4th round.
Okay.
Which I think is
like it's a nice pick. Yeah.
It's if you can get Kittle in the 4th, and we got a lot of smart people in this draft, so that might not happen. I saw Bime for hop in here. We have Felix.
Yeah, we can just go Kelsey Kittle. Let's just go bully tight end.
Yeah.
I'd rather take 2 tight ends early than 2 running backs.
I've also noticed in these drafts so far, like and it might have just been a comfort level because I did so many of these last year, where like by the 12th, 13th round, I was still happy with players on board. I feel like players dry up a lot faster right now. And it could just be getting used to the new situations and everything like that. But by that 9th, 10th round, I'm like, I don't want to draft any of these guys. Like in terms of in a 9th or 10th round pick, where last year I loved 9th round. I loved the 10th round. I was like, I love these guys. And it just seems like it dries up so much faster this year than it did last year. So again, I've done like 6 of these, and it might just be based on getting used to these drafts this year. But
we'll find some guys.
No, we'll find them.
Yeah. I haven't done a ton of drafts either, so it might be we might be struggling in those later rounds if you don't have a lot of names that you love, but I think we'll find some guys.
Yeah, I think it might have been a problem that I love names in that spot last year too, though, because I think maybe you get a little too comfortable and you're just clicking on 2 or 3 names every single time, and you're just getting overexposed to some players because you're like, well, I just know I like this guy.
Biden 4 took Javonte Williams. Surprise.
That's a shock.
Yeah.
We're real shocked about that. Nice pick, Biden 4. I'm
interested to see where AJ Brown goes.
So I've been I have a couple AJ Brown shares, and it's usually been towards the end of the 2nd, beginning of 3rd.
Evans over Brown.
That's an interesting
Didn't anyone see that T. Higgins over Brown? Good Lord. Didn't you guys see that him and Jalen Hurts are best friends? They went to Disneyland together.
Yeah. Do we not remember Cooper Kupp? Yeah. I mean, I think it's silly to not want AJ Brown. I understand the concerns with the Eagles being like the #1 rushing team last year. But do we remember how the Eagles started the year off? By getting bullied by their fans to run the ball more. So I don't think.
And they went extremely run heavy for a stretch. They went like 4, maybe 5 games in a row where their pass rate over expectation was at least 10 percentage points below expectation, which is like, 10th percentile for all teams for the whole season. And they were doing it every single week for more than a month. And it's like, okay, that's not going to happen again. They don't trade for AJ Brown and all this stuff. And there's virtually no shot. It's a question of how much more they pass. They might still be on the low end. They're not going to be as low as they were last year. They're not going to have a stretch like that. No,
and I think they're telling you that they don't want to be that team. Like as much as they were last year. I think, I'm not saying they're going to go throw it 75% of the time, but they're looking to show you that they want to pass the ball more. The playoff game probably scared them to death, where they just got absolutely destroyed by the Bucs the entire game, and they just realized they couldn't keep up in games like that. So we're going to be coming back around. Is there a position you want to look at wideouts?
Yeah, I got a few guys in mind. I'm used to ship chasing where we don't talk about it until we're on the clock because we're always afraid of getting sniped. But I mean, we took Kelsey. I think a Mahomes pick here would make plenty of sense. And then I was looking at Deontay. I'm always looking at DJ Moore. Then Deontay goes. Who's there at running back? Just out of curiosity, I don't think there's a lot that I would. Yeah, I mean, maybe J.K. Dobbins for me. There's not a lot of names on that list that I want anything to do with right now, actually. So, I think Mahomes is a really interesting pick with Kelsey already on the roster, and then for me, it would probably be DJ Moore.
I mean, I can't argue any of it. Where are you on McLaurin this year? Because I like him still.
I would say that I don't. I'm not particularly high on him with Wentz. I don't hate him, but I've never been a big McLaurin guy. Mm-hmm. He's good. He's very good. But part of his profile in his first few years, his best seasons, was he ran a ton of routes. Those teams were very pass heavy. He was like league high in routes. I look at targets per out run as a huge stat. His targets per out run have never really been elite. They've been very good. Mm-hmm. But they've never been elite. I think people get a little bit carried away with sort of what tier he's in personally, in terms of like what his potential upside is and stuff. He hasn't really shown this like top 10 upside other than when he runs a ton of routes. And now you have the Wentz thing on top of it. And so for me, it's at this price, it's kind of a hard pass for me, honestly.
You still don't like him. And I know he was going second round last year. So fourth is still too high for you on him.
It is. Yeah. He's somebody I would consider maybe in like the 6th round, 5th round, 6th round. It depends. There's a drop off at receiver for sure. I'd have to like see who the guys that are available, because there's a lot of guys in that range that are sort of questionable. Wide receivers not insanely deep this year. So
like last year the 4th round last year was the best round of the draft in my opinion. Yeah. That was the Evans, Godwin, DJ Moore, Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, like where we were just, how do we not want all of those guys at that point? And you just had your pick of any of them. I don't think I ever drafted anything other than a wide receiver in round 4 last year.
Yeah, it was the clearest wide receiver round in any year of any drafts ever.
Yeah, it was just so easy to do. And to your point, it does feel like it dropped. And I'm saying 30 things, but there was players throughout every round at wide receiver. Like we were getting Hollywood Brown in the 8th round last year.
I think like behind DJ Moore, that's sort of where this drop off is too. Like I'm actually not that like out on McLaurin in this pick. Like the 4 people behind us all went away from receiver. Mm-hmm. Now we're seeing sort of this next tier of receiver go. I like Godwin quite a bit, but a lot of these guys that you're seeing there at the top of the receiver list, like that was the drop, DJ Moore. I would have loved to get Deontay and DJ Moore at the turn, but that's part of why I was like, let's go Mahomes to get our stack, because I didn't really like 2 of the receivers there.
See, and I don't hate grabbing Mahomes. Like I got roasted for grabbing Mahomes earlier yesterday, but to my point earlier, you are losing out on quarterback a lot quicker. And I'm not like panic picking. I'm still picking with a purpose, right? Like it's
and I mean, we have Mahomes, Kelsey, and there's a lot of ways we can build that stack with KC now. Like we can take Juju, we can take Sky, we can take MVS, we can take Mecole. Like I'm fine with any of those dudes on my rosters. We can take in a 0 RB build Ronald Jones or CEH even, and this can be a really interesting KC stack. That is easy to do once you have a lot easier to do than past years where you had to pay for Kelsey, Tyreek, and then get Mahomes. It had to be your first 3 picks, right? This year you get Kelsey, Mahomes. You can build that out a lot of different ways. So,
and I think it leaves us open to possibly taking our second quarterback before the 10th round if it makes sense to.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to doing that, especially this year. Last year, I would have been a little more heels dug in on the ground on something like that, but this year, not as much. Is there any guys that you were just like completely out on this year that you just think other people are on that you just have no interest in?
There's sort of always guys. Like I won't take Ezekiel Elliott this year.
No,
just looking at him on the board. Yeah, there's almost no shot. People are focused on them not removing him, removing his playing time or anything last year, even though he was really bad. And so I've seen a lot of this, like, he's going to stay on the field. First of all, I reject that hypothesis. Last year, they were looking ahead to this year where they still had the $30 million cap hit, and they had to have him through 2022, or they had to hope that he was good enough that maybe they could trade him or something, get a team like the Texans to take his contract like the Cardinals did with David Johnson. So they kept playing him. They weren't going to bench him. But this year, at the end of the season, they can get out of his deal. They can cut him finally. And they almost certainly will at the end of this year. So if he's that bad again this year, I actually think he can lose playing time this year. I think it's a different scenario than last year. And people just are assuming that it's this exact same scenario as last year. And Tony Pollard is a free agent after this year too. They have every incentive to run him into the ground as well. So
that's a good point.
I'm really just like, I'm already concerned about his health and, hitting the age cliff and all that. But I'm not buying that he just has like work waiting for him. And that's the only reason to take him in the 5th round when you already think he's not necessarily the same type of explosive back. Especially, essentially with running backs, as soon as they start to hit the downhill decline, like there's no reason to be on them at all.
All right.
So for me here, like I freaking love Etienne here. I kind of love Breece Hall. I would be fine going running back right now. But I'd also be fine with like a Devonta Smith, Jerry Jeudy. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, we'll take Breece Hall. And I'm fine with Breece Hall. Where are you on? We'll talk about Etienne in a second. Where are you on drafting Devonta Smith when we already have AJ Brown, though?
We don't have Brown.
Oh, yeah, we didn't take Brown on this one. Sorry, I'm so used to drafting him. No, I'm fine with Smith. Right. I'm fine with Smith or Jeudy, to be honest with you.
I'm fine with either. I have them very, very close.
Let's do
Jeudy. Let's do Jeudy.
All right, let's do Jeudy. Yeah, I'm out on Etienne this year, and I'm not drafting him at all. And
well, there's your first mistake.
I mean, that's fine. I'm more than fine with. If I'm wrong on this, that's okay. I think he's overvalued. I think 5th round. I mean, we would have got him in the 6th. That's a little better, but it's still tail end of the 5th round. Broken foot. I don't know, dude. There's there's a lot of red flags to me on Etienne between everything. And especially on Underdog where it's half-point PPR and we want that dude catching tons of passes. I don't know, man. Like, sell me on Etienne. Tell me
profiles as the guy who will catch a ton of passes. That was his profile. His profile was right there with Najee Harris. I had him ranked higher. I think most analytically inclined people did. They went one pick apart in the draft. My argument is if he doesn't break his foot and he plays in any capacity at all, essentially, last year, that he's not going at the 5-6 turn, that he's going not in the first like Najee because he wouldn't have got that kind of work, but he would have done something. This is like running backs get enough opportunity, whether it's something in the passing game or something in the ground game, couple long touchdowns that people would be like, look at Javonte, for example, that people would be excited about him. You have James Robinson with the Achilles tear is going to be behind Etienne in the rehab process. Etienne looks like he kind of has the red carpet rolled out for him. To me, it's like to get him in the 6th round, like Brian Ford took him in the 6th. To get him in the 6th at this time last year, really the only way to think you could have a player of Etienne's caliber going into his 2nd year in the 6th round is if he just doesn't play the whole year. If he plays at all, he's going at least in the 3rd. He's a young 1st-round running back with a really strong profile. Talk about the receiving stuff. He's playing with his college quarterback who threw him all those passes. He had a really impressive receiving profile in college. Like, I think there is something to that with quarterbacks and running backs, just knowing when you're checking down where the guy's going to be. Man, I didn't realize Juju was going to go here. I almost would have liked to reach on him for our stack, but
but 6 seems really high for Juju.
But
I don't know if I would have reached for him.
Did I sell you on Etienne at all?
I guess like in terms of the fact that he might have been in the 3rd round if he had played at all last year, yes, but I also have a problem with drafting any running back in bad offenses. And I'm not ready to crown the Jaguars as having even a decent offense yet.
So this is DeAndre Swift from last year. He's going to catch as many balls as DeAndre Swift. He's going to be explosive like Swift was on his touches.
Yeah. And I faded Swift all last year, and I felt good about it.
Good choice.
It was a good choice. It was a great choice.
Swift was great. What are you talking about?
He was good. He was not great.
Oh, come on.
He was good. He was not great. He had like a few great games.
You're happy you faded Swift? Trey Lance in the 7th by for? Good Lord.
Okay.
Congrats
so that's
on the first backup quarterback to go off the board.
Thank you. Okay. So here's something we agree on, because that's the one guy I am definitely not drafting this year is Trey Lance. Not touching this dude at all. I mean, that's my argument. They're not even out of Jimmy G yet, which tells me something. I don't know what it tells me, but it tells me something.
I mean, the dude that led them to the NFC Championship last year is still on the roster. I'm not taking the quarter. I like Lance, but I'll get my exposure to him in August. Like, he's not going to go that much higher than the 7th round.
And we don't know what Debo's doing yet. I can't imagine he's getting traded. Like, because that would have happened over the weekend, I would think. Because the Jets were offering a 10th, or is that just a rumor? And they turned it down. That's the 10th overall. Supposedly.
For Garoppolo?
No, I'm talking about for Debo.
Oh, yeah. That was a rumor, I think. That was like speculation.
But, I mean, just, I don't know, man. Like, Trey Lance just seems bad, especially this early.
Are we back? Go click on 1131. Go to receiver. We got to get. Oh. You know what we're about to do, right?
I have a feeling.
I think we should go London Burks.
That's what I thought we were doing. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Just hit the 2 rookies. These guys do not belong at this spot. That is silly. I mean, they're already good values here. Burks is a no-brainer. What's there at running back?
Running back, we're looking at Singletary.
Ooh, we could consider CH, but I would take another one of those receivers, I think. Or unless you want to look at a QB as well. We could get our second QB you were talking about.
Well, we'd be looking at Stafford or Rodgers, and we'd have to backdoor stack Rodgers, which is not overly hard. But I'm fine with taking another wide receiver.
Yeah, let's go to receiver. Let's get our 5th. I mean, I'm good with Ayuk. We still don't know if Debo gets traded. We could take Garrett Wilson. We took Breece Hall. We're already kind of buying into the Jets being half decent.
Mm-hmm.
I'm down with that.
All right, we'll take Wilson. That's fine.
We'll still go rookie.
Yeah, it would have been nice to get London Burks there. That would have been the absolute great play for this turn pick. You had me all flustered with Lance. I completely agree with you. I just can't take Lance in the freaking 7th round right now. I don't. Under what precedent? Because we like their head coach. I mean, that's basically what it is, right? At this point, and that he can run would be the other caveat with Trey Lance at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I like Lance. I definitely see the ceiling when everything breaks right, but I mean, I don't know that that's a definite when everything breaks right. There are a lot of question marks. He's one of those dudes that I just wouldn't be drafting in May. I'll be drafting in August because I don't think he goes much higher than that, like I was saying. But even if the best part about this, even if Bimbor's right, Debo comes back and Lance starts, there are still outcomes where Lance isn't that good, right? Like that. Remember when he started last year? He was struggling.
That's
accuracy.
my whole other thing.
Yeah.
Is maybe he's just not even good. And I'm starting to come around that way on Justin Fields too. More so because they did nothing to help him.
Yeah, he's in a tough spot, dude. I really like Justin Fields, but
I'm
not going to have a ton of exposure to him because I don't know. I don't know what, like, my thing with Fields is he has to take a huge step forward just to look mediocre. Like
that's a good point.
He doesn't have anything. He's got to carry his team.
Yep. He's got to be the Superman of the league to do anything. And we ranked all the offenses before free agency and everything went. And I was big on Chicago this year, but mostly because I thought they were bringing in a big name wide receiver to put on the other side of Mooney. Maybe the Ridley stuff is what caused them to lose out on the wide receiver musical chairs. They were just the last team. But other than getting like Debo or something, and I don't know if that's going to happen, they just look like a rough roster, and I want nothing to do with Chicago after thinking I was going to want to stack them all the time this year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just as simple as they didn't get one more guy. They needed one more guy to make it feel like, okay, this offense can scream.
Yeah, no, I think you're totally right. Somebody, I mean, especially somebody that could like earn some strong targets. I mean, I think Mooney's pretty good, and I think Kmet could be good. So I'm with you. Like if you get somebody opposite Mooney who can actually, if they would have got a Sky Moore or something in there, I mean, that would have been, I'd have been pretty comfortable with their top 3 weapons, you know. But this is not an NFL where you can have Byron Pringle as your third pass catcher.
Yeah, and they're going to lose him probably.
Yeah,
I mean, like, so what?
Well, so they have like Equanimous St. Brown. Like they brought in a bunch of dudes that are just like, this
just
is
absolute scrubs.
Yeah.
And I'd love to just have somebody opposite Mooney in order to take Mooney. And I'll still have him here and there, but it's not the level that I thought I was going to be on with Chicago this year. We're going to be re-ranking all the offenses in like a month or so, me and Bime4. And that's going to be like one of the biggest falls for me. Spoiler alert. We had them as like stack when we can or something like that. And they're going to be avoid at all costs now for the most part.
Check out the other positions here. Who's available as we are almost back up. You got wide receivers, but you want to just click all of them and see what ADP is telling us?
Yeah. So right now we got Carter still on board. Obviously he's staying up there because
we don't want him with Hall
right, of
on
course.
Our roster.
Yeah, I'll just scroll through a little bit.
So, wait, go back to the top real quick. So I could see us going a few ways. I could see us going to Pat Freiermuth, who I really like, and getting our tight ends done with just Kelsey and him. I could see us taking a QB to just get a second one. We're already pretty bought into Mahomes, and I don't mind waiting there and maybe trying to get Zach Wilson and sort of backdoor our Jets thing we got going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then I like some more receivers, and so I'm always just down to take more receivers.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with that too. And just to validate my point from earlier, we're in the 9th round, and this is our quarterback list now. It's Cousins, Fields, Tua, Trevor Lawrence, Tannehill.
So Boyd is one of the receivers that I think is just such an easy pick there. He's I like to call small miss, big hit type of guy. So I think Jameson Williams is still a really good pick here. Like I understand he's come back from the ACL, but reportedly is already running, and they took him so high. I think they think he's going to play in year 1.
Well, this was an argument with me and Bime4 last night because I took Jameson Williams around this point, and he laughed at me. And I was like,
Kareem Hunt was there. Like Kareem Hunt is like a 6th round player every other season. Is there something I'm not thinking about with like some type of suspension or something related?
I don't think it's suspension or anything. I think that people are still just like gun shy to take Kareem Hunt because they thought he was going to get traded. I was one of those guys. Clearly that's not going to happen now.
But he's a good secondary. Like he still plays. He's a good RB2 in a 0 RB build for sure. And he has contingency value. If Chuba gets hurt, Hunt is a star.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing is, even if he were to get cut, I don't even know that situation. It's because I really like Dearness Johnson as like a late round guy.
Yeah.
I don't know what his casualty would be if they cut Hunt, but if he goes somewhere, he's going to play.
Yeah. And Willis is right. Sky for the stack would have been a good call, but I don't know, man. Hunt is a tough value to pass up there, and Jameson is tough 17 picks behind ADP there for me as well. So, like I would have liked to take Sky there. I saw him on the list, but basically just want to take those guys more.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna run through our team real quick just for the podcast listeners. So at quarterback we have Mahomes. Running back right now we have Breece Hall, Kareem Hunt. Wide receivers we have Diggs, Moore, Judy, Treylon Burks, Garrett Wilson, Jameson Williams, and then at tight end we have Travis Kelce. And I think this team is shaping up for us to win.
Sick. Yeah. I love having the 4 rookies. People are afraid to take rookies, dude. They're still going to rise. It's a good time to load up on rookies. They're the key, man. Like people don't think they matter as much in redraft. It's full on dynasty season, but rookies have upside.
Yeah,
like
and
if you want to win a tournament, you want rookie upside. We just saw it with Jamar Chase last year, obviously. We saw it with Jonathan Taylor the year before. I mean, those guys were superstars, but we have some of the best. We have the 101 and 102 in dynasty drafts in a lot of them,
Mm-hmm.
in Breece Hall and Traylon Burks. I mean, all four of the guys we have are going top 6 picks in Dynasty rookie drafts. These are the best players in this class. We got them at good prices. They're the kinds of guys that in Best Ball Mania tournament time, end of the season, rookies tend to produce more towards the end of the year. Like, these guys can be monster chips.
And just to tie up the Jameson Williams thing, when we have a wide receiver core with Diggs, Moore, Judy, Burks, like we can afford to take Jameson Williams because if we hit on him, then it's just wheels up on that team.
Absolutely agree with that.
So we have a question in the chat that says, what are our thoughts on David Montgomery? And I think we usually just laugh at David Montgomery. But to expand on it a little bit more, we don't know what the new coaching staff is going to think of him or the backup, Khalil Herbert. And my spider sense would say they're going to want to see what they have in Khalil Herbert, as he's only a second-year player. So I think the writing is going to be on the wall for David Montgomery either this year or in the next year and a half or so.
You got to shout out Bimeforce guy. Darrington Evans is on the roster now too. So
I forgot
Darrington
about that.
Evans might just take the number 1 role.
So what you're saying is if Bimeforce doesn't take Darrington Evans in the 11th, he's a fraud.
Zach Wilson, 10-11. That was a tough stretch for us. Alberto, Zach Wilson, Sky Moore. That was a good tight end 2 candidate. Our QB for our stack, Sky Moore. Oh, Jacoby Myers. The hits keep coming, man. Those are all good picks.
We're
Wilson's
not.
not. I don't know why you're taking Wilson at 10-11. Take Tua. Leave us Wilson. I don't even want to take him, but we have Jets on our team.
Yeah, that's probably people. That's Felix. Felix won $1 million last year on DraftKings playing best ball, so he feels as though he can just do whatever he wants, right?
Yeah, I mean, I take back my criticism. When I win $1 million, I'll criticize.
Another guy that's been pretty interesting is Kenny Golladay. Were you on?
Yeah,
the Giants?
I'm fine buying low on him as a bounce back. He's still a good football player. Like really terrible first year, injuries, bad offense. They got a new head coach, new system, should be better. He has Elijah Moore, he says in the chat. So the Zach Wilson to Elijah Moore stack makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, at this price, take a swing at Golladay. Like, he's still in his prime. Like, he just signed a massive contract a year ago, and people were taking him in the 5th round. I didn't draft him in any leagues last year, but I want him in the 11th this year. Sure, why not? Yeah.
We're going to be coming back up. I'm just kind of look through some of the positions right now. And
so I love my boy RoJo here as a continuation of our KC stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I like a lot of those rookies too and young guys, but I think RoJo's a legitimately good runner, and they didn't have that last year. And I think he's probably good enough to earn that work from MVS goes too. Earn that work.
MVS has been all over the place in the drafts that I've.
Where does Mecole go? Has he already gone, or
he's usually like 14th, I think, off the top of my head.
We might want to hit him as well if we can later, but if we take RoJo, what's left at tight end? I think everybody went.
So we're looking at Ertz, Fant, Kmet.
I'm definitely down with Fant or Kmet. I don't know how you feel about those guys, but
I like Kmet. My thing is I'd want to push tight end one more round.
What about QB? We haven't taken our second QB either.
We're looking at Tannehill, Jones, Matt Ryan, Daniel Jones, Winston, Wentz. That's
gross.
Well,
we can take another running back or another receiver.
Any of these running backs standing out to you?
Not particularly. What do we have at receiver?
Why don't we have Golladay?
Let's take Golladay. We were just talking him up. I mean, again, just like the argument you made before, we have enough receivers that we can take a swing, and I think Dable could be good for the Giants. And Golladay at this price is fine. I don't want to be all over him, but the hate's gone too far. He's good. He's not bad at football. He's good at football.
I like to bust buying for his balls because he likes the Giants, and it's mostly just a bit, but I think the Giants could be better. I don't think they're going to be like one of the offenses we want to stack every single draft, but I want some exposure to most of the main Giants players, like Golladay.
Yeah.
I want some Saquon here and there.
The other thing with Golladay here is, I mean, I just when projections come out and everything, I don't think Golladay goes to the 11-12.
No, you think he's going to move up?
I think he's at least like a 9th round pick by August.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I mean, I think he should be, but we'll see. People might just be too snake bitten from last year. Again, I'm a guy who didn't take him in a single league last year, so maybe that's I don't know. Maybe that's why I'm like, all right, fine, I'll take him.
No, I understand both sides of that too. That's like one of those things that you can get. You're aware that Ball Mania, they went back to 18 rounds, right? Just that they were doing 20 rounds for everything. They went back to 18, which I actually like personally, because I think it separates them still from DraftKings a little bit. And I'm all for not just drafting the same format on every single site. So I just want to keep that in your head just as we're building our construction. If there was a certain way you wanted to go, and then we're like, oh shit, we didn't grab enough.
What do we have right now?
So we're sitting on a 1-3-7-1 build at the moment.
So we want to get a couple more backs, probably.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can go 2-2 at QB and tight end with Mahomes and Kelsey. So it's kind of a question of it. Do we want to go 2-5-9-2?
Mm-hmm.
That'd be kind of what I'm thinking we're trending towards.
Yeah, I mean the normal builds for me are 2-5-9-2 or 2-6-8-2, depending on, like you said, who we have for quarterback, who we have for tight end, and kind of how our running backs run it.
I like our running backs. Like, I think Hunt and RoJo are going to have roles. I think you can make a pretty good case that we're going to at least get volume. I kind of like when you get these types of backs, Hall, Hunt, and Jones, in the sense that, like, they're not necessarily projected for these massive workloads, in the sense that maybe that helps them stay healthier is basically where I'm going with this. Like, you know, they're getting you some points, and then they still have contingency value if the other backs in their backfield get hurt like mid-season, and then they're getting the big workloads late in the year, as opposed to trying to manage, a 300 touch workload over the course of a whole year. I mean, we'll see, obviously, but I kind of like that we have guys that I think are going to be involved, get touches, get work from week one, and also, have potential to get into bigger workloads, and also have, I think, a little bit less injury risk just because they're not getting as many touches. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I think that our running backs stack up real nice. There's a couple other teams that I'd like to target towards this back end, towards this middle-ish area that I'll bring up a little bit closer to our picks, if they're even there at that point. But there's some guys that I still really like at almost every position, probably except quarterback, but we expected that. I mean, it's just quarterback is just drying up. And I think part of it is, in order to, especially in best ball, what people are looking at is who are the guys that can put up 40 and who can win you that championship week. And there's not a lot of guys that can put up 40, and at the quarterback position, especially, the tail end guys are never going to do it. Where, like, you might have Rashad Penny from last year, who went usually either undrafted or in the 18th round, was the guy that you needed in the 17th round. You're really not getting that with a quarterback probably 99% of the time, is what I would say. It would take Lamar getting hurt and Tyler Huntley having like this banana game that you decided to take him in the 18th round for some reason, is like the only thing I can think of, or one of the rookies really just surpassing what we thought they were going to be. So I think people are just pounding quarterbacks a lot earlier than they have the last 5 years or so.
But we have Patrick Mahomes.
But that's my point, is we have Mahomes, so that's great. And we could just get another guy. We don't need a 3 quarterback build, which is going to be more popular this year as well. If you get shut out.
On that note, I think we got to take Daniel Jones here. We took Golladay. Malik Willis is there for Tannehill. There's not a lot left. I don't want to be taking Wentz. I don't want to. Winston and Goff are the other dudes that probably have some job security, but we already have Golladay. I mean, I think Jones is a clear one. The other guy that I think was a pretty clear one here, and I don't know, you were mentioning running backs, but Kmet is still there at tight end.
Yeah, my question with Kmet is, you like him over Tonyan? Because I love Tonyan this year.
I'm fine with Tonyan, but Kmet's like a young tight end that could actually be really productive, and Jimmy Graham's now gone. He took a lot of the red zone stuff. They don't have pass catchers. Like, somebody's got to catch. Kmet could legit have like a 20% target share. He's one of my favorite mid-round tight ends. To get him here, I'm actually feeling like we have two. Like, you're kind of punting the second tight end when you get Kelsey, but it feels like a gift to have at 1401 another tight end that you think actually could legit be a top 5 tight end. And I don't know that I think Tonyan can be that. I mean, there's similar issues at wide receiver for the Packers, but Tonyan just a lot older, not somebody that has like a profile like Kmet did in college, where you're actually, you're looking at a guy who was a solid draft pick, had a receiving profile in college, has a couple decent years to start his career, has size, has a lot of the stuff that you look for. And tight ends break out later. We know that. And so like this could be, sort of the year that he's sort of just coming through this natural progression. I don't mind Tonyan at all. I think he definitely still has value. Like in Dynasty, I was trying to trade him this offseason in one league, and people like don't want to trade him for anything because he got hurt last year. He only has the one good year a couple years ago, and he's older. But like I think he's still starting tight end that's worth something in a tight end premium league for Dynasty stuff that people should be trading for him, but or like be willing to give up like a 4th round rookie pick or something, or 3rd round rookie pick, but people don't want to do that.
I've always been on Kmet. Like last year, I think he was my most owned player across all contests. I think I had like 32% exposure to Kmet. Obviously, it didn't work out last year. And I think if I wasn't so just like worried about that offense is going to be, I'd be way higher on Kmet because I still think he is capable of doing everything you just said. It just felt like with Tonyan, it's the same, to your point, like you just said, it's like almost the same thing, except Rodgers, when Tonyan's on field, he always finds them.
Yeah, that's fair. He definitely has more like 10 TD upside than Kmet does. With Kmet, it's like I think Kmet has more 80 catch upside. He has more ability to just rack up targets in a way that Tonyan's not going to get there. But
I also like a lot of these second tight ends, or like if you're doing a 3 tight end build, I don't hate some of the guys that are still on board. So if we go to Jacksonville, I know we do this every year, but I don't hate Ingram if he's your 2nd or 3rd tight end. I don't hate Uzoma, like you were saying. They brought him over for a reason. I'm real interested in Trey McBride in Arizona. I'm still trying to figure that one out. Is Ertz?
He's a good prospect, but yeah, it might be tough this year because of Ertz.
Yeah, but like, is Ertz just so old that they're gonna try to turn McBride into something this year, or is he going to be a project where most of the tight ends usually are? So that's another one that I've been trying to figure out, and I've been grabbing McBride as like a 3rd tight end if I miss out on some of the top tier tight ends.
Yeah,
I say it like I've drafted 100 teams in Best Ball Mania. This is like my 5th one, which is still probably a lot. And I saw people in the chat talking about needing to pace themselves because it's May, and I think that's a big thing for Best Ball Mania, where people just get so excited to draft. If you blow all your shots in May, you might really screw up being able to draft with some of the like lesser capable players that are going to be firing like 2 weeks before the draft without having looked at anything.
Yeah.
I know people like to say that they want to play because they know all the information, then they know who's starting and blah, blah, blah. But for me, I know that the field's weaker towards that point.
Yep.
So that's why I like drafting at that point personally.
I think it makes sense.
Yeah.
I just saw Algier rookie Tyler Algier go off the board. I think that was a really good pick this late. I mean, he's going to play some for Atlanta this year for sure. Who do we have at running back? We only have the 3. And you said there's some teams that you're thinking about targeting?
Yeah, they're gone now though.
Okay.
So what I was going to bring up is like right in that little that 13th round or so. Like if I'm grabbing a 0 RB build, I like trying to grab Mostert.
Yeah.
I know he's old, but
I like him.
But my whole point with Mostert is he's going over with his old offensive coordinator. He knows the offense. He knows what they want to do over there. So they're always going to run 2 backs there, probably I would assume.
Yep.
So I'm not looking for him to be like my bell cow, but just he's a guy that can get
he's
us
gonna
some
have
weeks.
some plays. Scroll down here because we're almost on the clock. I don't have any idea where to go here. I was thinking running back. Scroll down running back a little.
So it gets ugly.
Yeah, it's not pretty. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we're starting to get into like James White, Jerick McKinnon, Pierre Strong, Benjamin stuff.
So Zamir White, I think is a pretty solid bet. The Raiders took him to be sort of their number 2. If Josh Jacobs gets hurt, he's a decent 15th round handcuff. I like the James White call as well. I'd be fine double tapping those two. I mean, I know it's a little early, but
do you want to get anything else before we take White?
Let's look at receiver because we're good on QB and tight end now. Oh man, I would take Julio.
Yeah,
there's a lot of receiving groups that could add him.
Yeah,
Packers could still add him. Yep. I mean, yeah,
I've been grabbing a ton of Julio around here just because of upside of the players that are left on the board. I mean, as much as I like KJ Osborne, especially if like Thielen got hurt or something like that, Julio can step in, and if he has anything in the tank still, he's gonna outperform like any dude that is on this list that we're scrolling through.
Yeah, it's too late for him to be going.
Yeah, so I agree. So 16th round Julio Jones.
If you're not taking him before now, then you're saying he's going to retire, which is, I think, a potential risk. But the second he signs, he's going higher than this. It doesn't matter what team he's on. He's Julio Jones. Right. I mean, people were talking about Tampa, and you're like, okay, well, Tampa's got a lot of other weapons. But if he signs on Tampa, he's going higher than this just because,
Yeah, and if you're taking him as our what was he, our eighth? Julio Jones is our 8th wide receiver.
Feels pretty good.
Which tells you that, like, like all he needs to do is perform in like 2 or 3 weeks for us theoretically, and we're solid. So, yeah, I mean, I'll hit the Julio Jones button in the 16th round almost every time, if that's what my build is going for, which is most builds. Most builds, I'm going to be like, yeah, I can take another wide receiver right here, and if it's Julio Jones, great. So at the moment, he'll probably end up being one of my most owned players, just based on where he's going, and he could jump up to he could get steamed to like the 7th round, 6th round if he goes to Green Bay. Like, we saw what was getting drafted in the 6th and 7th round. We like a lot of those players, but you start saying, yeah, Julio with Aaron Rodgers, people are going to buy into it, and they're just going to steam them up the board as much as they can.
For sure. I'm wondering. I mean, I like that we got Daniel Jones and Kmet, but because we had a nice first 3 running backs, we pushed it a little far because it does feel dusty right here. I'm not in love with the Zamir White pick. I think he's fine, but I mean, I think he was a day 3 pick, and then you have and Drake still there, and they brought in Brandon Bolden. Yeah, he was a 4th rounder. That's not terrible. I think he was like RB4 in the draft. So there's only like 3 in the first 3 rounds. But I mean, it's not great.
I do think we have to go RB for our last 2 picks.
I don't think we have to. I like our first 3 quite a bit, but because I just don't feel like these guys add a ton. I mean, I definitely think we need to take at least one more shot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't mind it if you want to. We do have 8 really good receivers.
That's my point, is we have like 8 really, really good wide receivers. So which receiver on this board is really adding to our team? It would have to
Mecole ever go? I forgot about Mecole. We never got another.
Yeah, he must have went. We would have looked at him when we were going to be looking at him around like the 13th.
Well, Shepard gives us a double stack for the Giants, and I think Shepard is still underrated.
That's a good point. Shepard is still there. Just kind of scrolling through wide receivers just to see if there was anyone else that would jump out. I mean, Duvernay from Baltimore.
No, not for me.
I mean, I just don't think
he was like a kick returner, and he mostly did like jet motion stuff last year. He's not really a legit receiver. They might manufacture him touches, but not a guy that I think has like big upside to pop. For me, it would be guys like that. Romeo Dobbs or Dubes guy from that
Mhm.
Green Bay took. He has a profile that suggests he could be a pretty good target earner, and Green Bay has the available opportunity for it. It'd be a guy like Shepard who could do it. It'd be a guy like Visca, betting on him. I mean, I know everyone's sick of Visca, but at this point, like, you're talking about a guy who had injury issues his first year and then played under Urban Meyer in his second year. Like, I'm not certain that he sucks. Everyone else seems to be.
It's just a question of what they're doing with that offense with just all the pieces they brought in.
Right. And
Is there
Visca might not
room?
even play. Right.
Right.
It's like, it's not great, but I mean, in the 17th or 18th round, a profile like his, guys like that have broken out in year 3. Devontae Adams was viewed similarly after his first 2 years. He was viewed as like literally being one of the worst receivers in the NFL. Tyler Boyd, 2 horrible seasons to start his career, came out, has been really good since. And the reason I'm using those guys as comps is they were similar, really strong age-adjusted producers in college who struggled early, but then the production came through in year 3 and beyond.
Is there
I
any
think James White never went, did he?
James White? Let's scroll. No, he's
There
still
he
there.
is. Let's take him.
That's fine. I'm fine with taking a share of James White.
I mean, they got a lot of running backs, but they're still going to use him in their pass catching role, don't you think?
Oh, definitely. He's like locked into that third down role for sure.
So the question now is, you don't want to take Shepard and do a double stack, or
I'm fine with taking another receiver. I just thought
I think it's Visca or Shepard in terms of raw like impact for this pick.
if you
Who
had
do
to
you like
pick
more?
one, who do you like more?
Well, I think Shepard makes more sense with our build, but I like Visca more.
Let's just do Visca. That's the
All
18th pick.
Let's do it.
Let's have fun.
We got to roll the clip
For the brand, right?
Yeah,
You got to do it for the brand. I think we'll go over our team in a second. I just think our one mistake might have been we probably should have taken one more running back after Ronald Jones.
A little stronger than Zamir White, I agree.
Yeah,
but I do think James White's a pretty good 4th in terms of like just having points, so you're not taking zeros, you know?
Yeah. All right, so let's go over our roster real quick. We got Mahomes and Daniel Jones at quarterback, Breece Hall, Kareem Hunt, Ronald Jones, Zamir White, and James White for running backs. Diggs, Moore, Judy, Burks, Wilson, Garrett Wilson, Jameson Williams, Kenny Golladay, Julio Jones, Visca, and Kelsey Kmet. I think it's all in all a pretty fucking solid team, to be honest with you.
I love this team, dude. This is a good team.
Yeah,
there's definitely different ways we could have played it. I'm right there with you that I wish Zamir Jones was a stronger RB4. But sort of the trade-off was to get Daniel Jones and to get Kmet at that turn. Yeah. We had a pretty big gap between the picks before them, and then when we were back on the clock. It's what happens when you're on the turn and you're like, man, we're going to hit QB2 and tight end 2 here. It's a really good opportunity to do both of those things. And then you're like, well, we just went 48 picks between our running back picks. You know, now we're down to Zamir White. Like, that's what happens.
Right. And I think the biggest dynamic that I have to get used to again is just the quarterback part, because even those, Daniel Jones would have went like the 17th, 16th round last year, and we had to get him wherever we had to get him, like the 13th round. So like every quarterback's getting pushed up. And I think
I feel like we got pretty lucky to get him there too, because we were at a point where you're looking at pretty unstable starters in terms of 16 game starters. Although Casey just got Goff here in the 18th, I think Goff's pretty locked into 16 games or 17 games now.
Yeah, Goff might actually be like the best late round quarterback, especially if Detroit's trying to do something with that offense. I mean, I was hating on Swift earlier, but I like it now with bringing in Williams, having Amon-Ra, having who else did they bring in? DJ Chark with Hawkinson. Like, if Goff can do anything, we've seen him have a decent year when he had everything around him before.
Yeah.
That getting Goff like in the 18th round, just backdooring a Detroit stack might.
My issue with Goff in best ball specifically is just he doesn't really have a weekly ceiling. I was looking up the other day because we were having this conversation on one of the other shows, and his highest in 4-point per TD passing leagues, his highest single week score in the last 3 years is like 25.2, I think it was. Like, because he provides nothing as a rusher. You can't even get like 30 rush yards. Right. I mean, he had one game last year where he ran for like 40 yards, but I think it's his only 30-yard rushing game of his entire career.
Yeah,
so
you're getting one of those weird plays where the quarterback just has the entire side of the field.
He ran for like 30 yards on one play, and it was more than he's had in a game, any other game in his career on that one play. But so yeah, you have to basically have 3-4 pass touchdown game. He had some of those earlier in his career with the Rams where he had some real ceiling, but like those Rams teams were top 3 in points scored. The Lions are not going to be like that. They're not going to score 35 points often. So it's a little bit tough to see his weekly upside. Now in a 2 QB build with like a Mahomes, you're kind of just hoping you have another starter there in case, Mahomes gets hurt or something. But for the most part, you're banking on Mahomes having a big year.
Do you want to roast Beinfor's team and then we'll get out of here?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So he's got Lance and Tua at quarterback.
Sweet. So he has no quarterbacks.
He's got Javonte Williams, Travis Etienne, Alexander Madison, Gainwell, Darrell Henderson, and Donta Foreman at running back.
I mean, I like Javonte and Etienne. I'm not gonna, and Gainwell.
I like Madison this year too.
Yeah, and I think Henderson's a good pick too. Yeah, right. He did all right. He did all right at running back.
It's fine. I don't like Donta Foreman though. I don't know. I think it's going to be nothing with him this year, especially with Chuba behind there. Then he's got Justin Jefferson, Jalen Waddle, Mike Williams, Gabriel Davis, Brandon Ayuk, David Bell, Jalen Tolbert, and Byron Pringle, who's not even going to play football this year.
Yeah, Byron Pringle's bad, and also might be in legal trouble.
Yeah, he's bad, and Beinfor should feel bad for picking him.
David Bell and Jalen Tolbert are 2 really good late rookie picks, and I like the rest of the receivers, so I'm not gonna bash any of that. You can't bash receivers. Receivers are great. No. He knows how to take the downfield guys with TD profiles. He's got Mike Williams. He's got Gabe Davis. He knows what he's doing.
And he's got Schultz and Everett for his tight ends.
And I like those tight ends too, personally. So I can't rip his team too much, other than the fact that this team's going to score a lot of points for a team that gets zeros from quarterback by week 8 because both of his quarterbacks aren't starting.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I'm going to love to watch this team. It's just going to come up short every week from being able to advance, and we're just going to
be like, wow, this team's really, really good if only it had a starting quarterback on the roster because Tua got benched for sucking too bad. Teddy Bridgewater and Jimmy G are going to be staring Beinfor in the face.
Just look at me, I'm the captain now meme from whatever Tom Hanks movie that is. All right, man. Well, I'm going to let you get out of here. We spent a little over an hour on this draft. So anything you want to plug before we get out of here?
Yeah, I mean, just stealing bananas, ship chasing, or the pods. The newsletters, bengretch.substack.com.
All right, guys. Thank you for joining us for this draft, and we'll do this again at some point, Gretch.
Yeah, for sure. That was a lot of fun.
All right. Peace, guys.